So we are live. I think so. All right. Sandy says read, and welcome to the channel, you guys. Tonight, I'm so excited to share with you all out there an author friend of mine. This is Nessa Brown, and we are going to be talking tonight about the first 2 short stories that she's had published. I'm excited to talk about this with you guys. Let's see if I can do this without the glare. Still a little bit of glare. This is Storms of the Brain, which is a short story anthology that I've talked about here on the channel before. And Nessa has 2 stories in this anthology. So we are going to talk about those a little bit. Before we get started, let me share with you guys a little bit about who Nessa is. I have a short bio here. Nessa Brown lives in Cincinnati, Ohio, and has worked on writing fiction pieces for the past 2 years. Her debut stories were published in an anthology, Storms of the Brain, edited by Bram Stoker award-winning author Michael Knost. She is also an Ohio HWA member and is currently working on a novella. She enjoys writing horror, fiction, and fantasy. So you guys, please help me welcome to the live stream tonight, Nessa Brown.
Hey. Hello, Sandy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. I'm so glad that we get to do this. This is great. I guess the first thing I want to do, I've neglected to mention before we got onto the live stream here, I neglected to mention there is like a thunderstorm coming in out there. I'm in Central Florida and there's a thunderstorm breaking in out there. So if something goes wrong and we lose power or we lose internet, I want the audience to know how to find you online. We were talking earlier that you do have a Facebook presence. Can you tell the audience how to find you on Facebook?
You can just Google search Nessa Brown and then just private message me and we'll get in touch. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Facebook. Now, have you already built a website? Are you working on that? How else can people find you?
Yeah, that's where we're at right now. So, yes. That the website should launch by the end of this month. So, yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. Okay. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
There we go. That's kind of exciting.
Yes.
Now, are you building that yourself? Do you have someone helping you build it?
Oh no, I'm using Wix. I'm gonna just stand on what giants make for a little while until I get my feet under my ground underneath me. It is if I'd known getting into the writing stuff how much is involved in this and how much I'd still do it because I love it, but it's just like, wow, this is a lot. So little things like having a public presence, websites, stuff like that, link trees. So doing good. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, that's exciting. Congratulations on getting the website. I mean, being able to, the idea of being able to launch it by the end of this month, that's huge.
Yeah.
I know it's huge. I don't know how many years I went without a website because I refused to build it myself because I was afraid of doing it. And I just went so long without it. But I had a gal, a web developer down in Naples, Florida, and she said to me, you don't want to build your house on rented land. Okay. So, because I was using, back at that time, I was using Facebook and I was using all these other social media platforms to like build my audience and like connect with potential readers. And she's like, she goes, nope, you don't want to build your house on rented land. I'm like, okay, I get it. So I had to build a website of my own. I started building like the newsletter list, you know. It does suck. It's a lot of work.
I'm learning a lot. And it's also really nice to hear other authors talk about how like, this is difficult, even though they've been doing it for forever. And even Michael Knost, occasionally I'll see him like, hey, how do I do such and such online? He'll put, to his other friends. So I definitely, I'm not alone in this. So that's good. Yeah.
Right. Well, and in your bio, it says you've been writing basically for a little over 2 years now. And that surprised me. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, how did the writing bug bite you? I mean, when did you get the writing bug?
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So back in 2016, 2017, I was living in LaGrange, Kentucky. And at the time, I was just going through a really low point. And I told myself that if I got up that day, I was going to go out. So I wasn't going to just waste my whole day. I was going to go out and do something. I said anything, it didn't matter. And the library in town, the little local library, had an author signing at the time. And while I was there, I got to meet some authors, including and mainly Michael Knost, and they started talking about this writers convention called Imaginarium. And I thought, oh, what an awesome thing to like go look at. But my brother is actually the one that's always wanted to be a writer. And with his disabilities, we ended up going down to Imaginarium, sharing a hotel room. And because he couldn't get up and move around, I was the one that went to the panels and talked to people and bought books and all that. And then when he could get up, we would bring him out for a little bit, and then he'd have to go back. So it started off with helping out my brother, but I stayed connected with Michael and Amy McCorkle. And they're just like, you can write. And then I started taking Michael's classes. So I sort of dabbled in writing throughout, but I didn't really start seriously writing up until a couple years ago. And since then, I've joined, I've got 2 really fantastic writing groups that I'm a part of, that I go to and see pretty regularly, and we critique each other's stuff. I'm a part of a flash fiction group, and I need to get more diligent on doing that because they do weekly challenges, and I need to get back on that. But yeah, it's been a wild ride, and I'm amazed at what I'm able to do. And what other people are doing with their stories, So, yeah.
Okay. While we're chatting, I want to welcome Stephen Zimmer and Dwan Hearn, who have joined us in the chat. It's good to see you gentlemen in here. If you guys have any questions for us, just post them in the chat, and hopefully I will notice the questions coming in. All right. Now you mentioned, Nessa, that the writing groups that you're a part of. Now, are those like physical writing groups that you go to and you sit down with other writers in like a coffee shop or the library, or those online? How does that work?
One is we meet through Discord, and we specifically write. Oh, and hey, I'm sorry. Hey, Stephen. Hey, Dwayne. I'm so sorry. So one, we meet through Discord, and we specifically write short stories, and that's it. We focus on short stories, and the goal for that is to work towards publication. So some of us pick an anthology, and then we both write our own stories, but kind of help each other out, whereas others just do their own thing. But the main thing is to practice developing those writing skills of critiquing and making something. And then the other one that I'm a part of is we meet out in Marietta, Ohio, about once a month, every other month, and we all meet physically in person, and we all talk about the stories, which it's wonderful. I mean, because a part of me is like, because it's a decent trek for me, but it's so worth it to physically meet with people and get to know them, and talk. Because we'll end up talking about other things beyond writing, but it's great. Typically, things that inspire us to come back and write some more. But yeah, they're both great, and I really enjoy them.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I have not found like a physical writers group here in the area where I am, where I can like go and meet with them and do that. And I would really like to do that. So
yeah,
I'm always inspired when something like that can happen. When I was living down in Naples, Florida, there was a physical writers group. We would go and we would sit down and we would, eat lunch together and go over stories. So I'm almost jealous of the fact that you get to do that. That's wonderful. I love that. Now, the stories, though, that you're talking about, there's very much a lean toward short stories, is what I'm hearing. A lot of short stories and flash fiction you mentioned as well.
Yeah.
Is that the dream? Is that the I guess the medium that you are excited to be working in the future? Do you want to always write short stories, or do you have a lengthy novel inside you?
There's a novel in there somewhere. I really enjoy writing shorter pieces. One, you get that completion, you get that feeling of, hey, the story's done, you did it. It's also, it could be a catalyst one day for a future novel. So like if I'm really enjoying these stories, hey, maybe I can move them on to something else. But yeah, I hope so. The vision right now is I'd love to get paid for something. Yeah. Just one time, and I'll be like, I did it, guys. I did it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Wasn't it Stephen King who says even if the payment, if all it does is pay the electric bill, it's still getting you paid.
Oh yeah.
Once. Yeah, that is the dream. Now the two short stories that you have in Storms of the Brain, these two are very different genres. Okay, the first one that she has in here, you guys, is called Lipstick in the River, and the other one is The Headsman. And I'm going to let her tell us a little bit about these two, but these are two very different genres. So I want you to kind of share with the audience, I mean, what genre do you gravitate toward? What genre sparks the fire when you start writing?
Okay. So as far as what do I enjoy writing, I really like horror, and I tend to find myself going that way no matter what I'm writing. So it could start off as a fantasy or sci-fi or horror, and I'm still look where we're at again. So, so I tend to lean that way. As far as stories go, Lipstick in the River, that started off, I was trying to write a cryptid piece. It was supposed to be about the Loveland Frogman in a retirement home. So this was kind of a challenge of writing a cryptid. I had to go study and learn. I didn't know much about this one, and then trying to find something I did know, which I was a nurse's aide at one point. So I kind of married the two and tried to create a story with that. And in the story, you've got a nurse's aide that is, just really struggling, has a bully at work. And is just not able to find a lot of hope in what she's doing, even though she does a really good job at her work. And one of the elderly people that she's taking care of, surprise, is the Frogman. And then the story continues from there on how that ends and everything.
Okay. Now, when I read The Headsman, that one I got to read ahead of its publication because it was done in a class that we were in. But when I read The Headsman, that one has a very fantasy feel to it, almost high fantasy. Would you say as high fantasy? How would you classify it?
I mean, I was shooting for that. So if you got that, that's great.
Good. All right.
As long as we landed on fantasy, I was happy. But if you got that, I'm so happy. That's a story about it's a story about two twin brothers. One, they're executioners, and in this world, like in the real world, executioners at that time were outcasts, and they were just given a pretty rough lot in life. And you see the main character coming in, and you're getting to learn a little bit about just how life is rough and difficult for him. He is staying there doing the job that he's supposed to be doing. And then his brother is out traveling. He's supposed to be doing executions out somewhere else. That's what he's supposed to be doing. And then what happens is these two decide to make a choice on whether or not to continue doing what they've always done or to try and change it and then see what happens. Was the plan with this story of like how things can go when you're trying to just switch up the hand that you've been given. So
okay. Well, and I did see, I mean, you mentioned you like the horror elements and you like inserting those horror elements, and now that you've said that, I can see that there were horror elements in both of those stories. And there were those moments of just horror. They're there. I can recommend that to readers. Now, okay, so I mentioned that, I got to read The Headsman before it was published because of the class we were in. So I wanted to have you talk a little bit about, the class that we took and how how that helped you in crafting the story, The Headsman. And did you also craft Lipstick in the River in another Michael Knost class?
Yes.
Okay.
So I ended up doing 2 rounds, which was great. I really enjoyed both of them. With the Headsman, I mean, we were in both classes. We were told to show up with a fresh idea. So nothing I'd worked on before, nothing I'd shown anyone before. So I showed up and I had this very vague idea. I'd been playing a video game. What is it? I was playing a fantasy video game, so I was really stuck in that world, and so I kind of came with that, and I knew I wanted to show a story on what to do when when you've got when you're going through life and your choices, and through the group, through the suggestions, people gave me so much insight, and what was it? Just little things like even like you don't want both characters to have a bunch of characters that have the same name with the first letter. Just little things like that really helped me evolve what I was doing and how and what direction I was going to go in. And then having people that would sit there, just having people sit down, read your stuff and really care about these things that are these non-real things that are going on in your head is so nice. And everyone was just very kind and helpful. And I always walked away feeling like I got something out of this, even if we weren't even talking about my pieces that night, or the majority of the conversation went to someone else's. I still learned. So it was really great. Yeah.
That class with Michael was the first time, I think that one was the first time I had been involved in a course where we sat down and brought that fresh idea in, and then brainstormed it together, and then brought it back and brainstormed some more together. I mean, that's the first time that I had gone through the whole process with a group like that. And at first it's a little bit scary because you don't know. I mean, there's always the possibility that someone in the group is going to say, wow, start over. I mean, but no one did that. I mean, everyone was very kind, and they had good feedback. Even when there was constructive criticism, it was constructive, and that was good. Right. And like you just said, that there was opportunity to hear what people were saying about other people's stories. And while you're listening, I mean, I don't know about you, but while I was listening to people talk about other people's stories, I was writing down little notes, little tidbits about, oh yeah, okay, that's a good thought over there. And even if I can't apply that in the story I'm writing right now, I can apply that in a story maybe that I'm going to write next year. I mean, there's so much that we can learn back and forth from each other when we get into a class like that.
It was a fantastic experience. I really enjoyed it. The first round, it was a much bigger class, so it took a little bit longer, if I remember correctly. And then the second time there were 2 separate groups, and everybody did their own thing. But I mean, I enjoyed it so much. I recruited my friend to come in. So I really, so it was a really positive experience, and just having that opportunity to, I don't know, just people were so excited about this thing in my head. It was so cool. It was so.
Well, and as writers, and I think some of the audience that's going to be watching this later are authors as well, or writers as well. And we don't often have people in our lives who are willing to listen to us go on about, like you say, things that aren't real. Characters in our heads. They're not really, the people that I work with, they're not going to listen to me rattle on about characters in my head and dragons. But when you get into a class like that, it's wonderful to have people who are just as excited about creativity and fiction.
It was wonderful.
Okay. Let me see. I have some questions for you here. I want to ask, when you sit down to write one of these stories, for one of your writing groups, one of the short story groups or whatnot, what do you gravitate toward first? Do you find yourself interested in a character that has approached you in your mind, or is it a scene, a setting that gets you first? What typically pulls you into a story that you want to write first?
I know in the beginning I was really trying to start with character and like get to know that person, but I found myself kind of in the same headspace as I do when I play like a tabletop game, and I couldn't seem to break out of that. So I start typically the way it starts for me is I'm I'm trying to focus on like an emotion or an experience that I've seen or have experienced myself, and then I'll kind of just gravitate and kind of meditate on that, and then it just sort of we start making a story with that. So and then go from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Nice.
Yeah.
The groups that you're in, do you start with prompts at all? Is that one of the things you guys do, or?
Not the two that I have. No. The like I said, the short story group you pick out the anthology, and then you're focused on whatever the criteria is there.
Okay.
And then the other group, it is whatever you're working on right now. So if you're working on a novel, if you're working on flash fiction, if you're whatever it is that you're working on, you just show up and we read it and we talk about it. So
yeah. Okay. Nice. All right. Then I guess with the Storms of the Brain, that one, because of the classes that we were in, it didn't require us to go through an agent to get into that anthology. And it sounds like for, at least one of the story writing groups that you're in, you guys are looking at anthologies and then writing stories for that anthology. So again, there's not an agent in the middle there.
Yeah.
So can you tell the audience a little bit about the publishing journey that you've been on?
Sure.
But the publishing journey you would like to be on in the future, do you see yourself looking for an agent to assist with something in the future? What value do you see in that for your journey?
Sure. So the publishing journey through this, it took a while. I mean, it took a minute to do this, and it's something that I wasn't necessarily prepared for, but it wasn't anything like it wasn't a bad thing either. It was just it's like, oh, this takes a minute. But when you think about it, you've got one person editing all of these stories, on top of all of us going back and forth, critiquing everything like that. There was a miscommunication on my part. It wasn't Michael's, it was mine, where I didn't submit something on time properly. So that kind of, I'm like, I thought I wasn't getting yelled at. Oh no, it was me. I missed something there. But so there was that. We were told when things were going to go live, and we got to meet with the publisher, and then while we were all online, it went live on Amazon as we were all just on video with him, just talking a little bit more about the process and everything. So I was like, listening to him and clicking on Amazon Buy, and one of the first copies, it came to the house, and I discovered that there was a few typos and misprints, which I pointed them out, and they immediately fixed them, and there was no issues. And but it was, but outside of that, I mean, it was a great experience. I mean, and if I had any questions, I could reach out, and even now I can still reach out. So that's been great.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Well, let's see.
And then you were asking me about agents as far as in the future and everything. So I hope so. I hope that's the game plan. I hope to get to a point where I've got a novel and I'm ready to go. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's. I don't know at this point in my journey if I'm ever going to get to work with an agent. I've wanted to, because I want that partnership. I want that person who's on my team who can help me and work with me, and we can be that united front presenting things. I hope that that's in the future for me. But right now I'm just churning out material and just doing it the way I'm doing it. just going forward with the way I'm doing it at this time. I don't know if people out there in the audience are going to have questions about, the agent part of the process, but that's a whole nother live stream for a whole nother day. Okay, well, let me ask you, in the writing journey, the writing portion of this journey, what have you found most helpful along the way?
With this experience, having deadlines, because I was new to that. So having deadlines was great, but also just there was a million little things like manuscripts and making sure that they're where they need to be in meeting guidelines. That was a new thing for me. Getting that feedback that came from a kind place. Because, long ago, I would write in high school or I would write in college, and I'd show stuff to people and I'd get torn to shreds, or I had tried briefly before I had started working with Michael, showing some stuff to some people, and it was just getting beat down on whatever it is you were making, and it was difficult. And so meeting a group of people that came in that were kind, but also like, no, this could be better, really was beneficial. So, I mean, the whole process was amazing, and I highly recommend it. If you get an opportunity to do anything like this, I highly recommend it.
Nice. That's wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. All right. So those are all the questions that I had written down for you. What would you like to tell the audience about your writing future, or what would you like to share with the audience about the writing journey that you've been on?
I mean, I'm currently working on a novella, and then I am working on a novel, but it was supposed to be done last month, and so I've got more deadlines to meet on that. But so I am working on some longer pieces, and I'm really enjoying the process. And you're going to probably catch me at a convention or on some online workshop, because I'm still learning this like everybody else. But I'm really hoping, like I'd said, to get myself, the website, to get myself up and going. Hopefully by the end of the year. So
wonderful. Good. Yeah. I look forward to that. And when I post this up on the YouTube channel, I have an information box, and I can update that information box when we have your website. Great. So when your website is ready to go, you'll have to send that link to me, and I will update that for everyone, so we can look at that and check that out, because that's exciting.
Thank you so much. For someone who's been who's more experienced coming to the table, what was the one thing that really that you really took away from this experience?
From that class?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have to say it was that group discussion, the usefulness of that group discussion, because like you just commented, people were very kind in the criticisms that they gave. I mean, people looked for ways to help one another, and they did it in a kind way. And that's a good, wonderful thing. I mean, whether someone has been writing for, 20 years or 2 years, right? You want help, you want feedback, but you don't want people to be mean.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I've got to say thank you so much for joining me and sharing your experience with the audience tonight. I so appreciate you taking the time to do this, and your experience as a newer author and as a freshly published author is so vital and so wonderful for the audience to hear and to learn from. So I am so thankful that you took the time to do this. Thank you. Yes. I'm going to recommend to the audience one more time that they pick up Storms of the Brain, so that they can read the 2 stories that Nessa has in here, Lipstick in the River and The Headsman. And please don't feel, I have to say, I preferred The Headsman. I preferred that one. I liked the other one, but The Headsman was my favorite.
Hey, that's great.
Yes, all right. And thank you to the folks who tuned in during the chat. Stephen and Dwan were here. Thank you, gentlemen. I
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
the support over there. And to the folks who will be watching this on the replay, you know, you can leave questions in the comments below. Nessa and I, we hang out on YouTube at times, and we'll try to get back to you in the future. I think that's everything. Is that everything we have?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Okay, there we go.